The zombie genre is back, and it's more diverse than ever. Today we're diving into the best new zombie releases of 2025 and 2026. There's a ton of stuff to check out, from brutal medieval survival games and classic horrors to fast-paced shooters. What's up guys, it's Broz, and here we go. And we're starting with some real zombie carnage. John Carpenter's Toxic Commando is now officially expected in 2026, and according to the developers, it will happen at the beginning of the year. The studio Saber Interactive is positioning this project as a culmination of its experience gained from working on other games. The devs call it the ultimate Saber game, which is a direct result of their years of development. Technology that was created for World War Z and refined in Warhammer 40,000 Space Marine 2 has been pushed to its limits here. The Swarm engine can now handle even larger and more dynamic hordes that can attack from completely unpredictable directions. Vehicular combat has been added to the massive horde battles, and its driving mechanics are based on Saber Interactive's experience in creating simulators like SnowRunner. The game supports co-op for up to 4 players, with cross-platform compatibility available from day one. The most intriguing aspect of the project is the role of John Carpenter, whose name is in the title. Carpenter himself openly stated in an interview that he was brought into the project simply for the use of his name, for which he was paid. The game is set to release on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Every Resident Evil game is always one of the most anticipated horror releases of the year, and the 9th installment, titled Requiem, is no exception. Here you'll encounter not only the familiar bioweapon Infected, but also various creepy creatures. Following feedback from players after Village, Capcom took a big step by adding the ability to switch between first and third-person perspectives directly from the menu. First-person view, which is the default, creates a more intense atmosphere and is perfect for building suspense. At the same time, playing in third person isn't just about a wider view. The developers added unique animations. For example, the protagonist Grace Ashcroft can trip and stumble, which adds realism and vulnerability during tense moments. The main source of constant threat, also referred to by the community as the Mama Monster, is an incredibly intelligent and resilient character who will pursue Grace Ashcroft throughout the entire game. Essentially, it's something similar to Lady Dimitrescu and Lisa Trevor, but with a much more terrifying appearance. Director Koshi Nakanishi confirmed that the creature is not Lisa Trevor, which debunked a popular fan theory. He did, however, share an interesting detail. They used Lisa's voice for temporary sound effects. Resident Evil 9 Requiem will be available to play on February 27, 2026, on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. State of Decay 3 is another zombie survival action game that is built for cooperative play for up to 4 players with cross-platform multiplayer. It's one of the most anticipated exclusives from Xbox. However, despite its status, the game has a very long and ambiguous public development history. Announced back in 2020, it only showed its first gameplay trailer in 2024, and it was completely absent from the latest Xbox showcase in 2025. This long silence sparked a wave of rumors and concerns that the project might be cancelled or indefinitely postponed. The gaming community grew anxious, with many worrying that State of Decay 3 might meet the same fate as other cancelled games from Xbox Game Studios. But in July 2025, reassuring news emerged from insiders who reported that the game is safe and in active development. According to them, the project is much closer to being finished than you would think, despite its low public profile. The main source for the 2026 forecast is Windows Central journalist Jez Corden, who is known for his reliability with insider news about Xbox projects. Corden has stated on multiple occasions that the game is aiming for a 2026 launch, and his reports are supported by development analysis. State of Decay 3 can be expected on Xbox Series and PC. And in addition to this, the game will be available on Game Pass from day one. Another interesting release is Hunger, a game from UK-based studio Good Fun Corporation, which is coming to Steam Early Access in 2025. Seeing as there isn't much left until the end of the year, I can easily assume it will be in 2026. Its visuals and atmosphere are really striking, drawing on a Renaissance Gothic art style inspired by Caravaggio. In a gaming landscape where medieval FPS horrors are uncommon, this one stands out with its impressive graphics and a grim extraction shooter loop. The development team behind Hunger is known for their work on titles like Hell Let Loose, and their expertise is evident in the satisfying gunplay and robust melee system. What truly makes Hunger unique is its approach to the genre itself. The developers explicitly stated there will be no forced wipes. This is a direct rebellion against a common point of frustration in other extraction shooters. Instead of periodically wiping everyone's progress, the game focuses on long-term character development with mastery trees. The devs describe it not as an extraction shooter, but as a multiplayer first-person RPG that simply uses the extraction system to drive its progression. Dying still means you lose your loot, but you keep the experience gained so your time is never truly wasted. Based on the trailer, the game will have a wide variety of enemies besides the standard zombie types, and at the moment, it all looks very dynamic. The Dying Light series is back, and this latest installment looks like the most vicious, most uncompromising, and most unhinged entry we've seen yet. It's Techland's attempt to return to its roots, focusing on the brutal and primal horror that defined the first game. The developers have openly stated they felt Dying Light 2 became too approachable for a broad audience and lost some of its original essence. The Beast is their answer, a more focused take on tension and horror. The game brings back the old ally Kyle Crane, who, after 13 years of dark experiments, is no longer entirely human. He's been given a devastating new Beast mode, which automatically activates once you deal or take enough damage, turning you into an unstoppable force. In a surprising twist, the devs mentioned they drew influence from Pac-Man. Just as the famous pellet eater becomes the hunter, Crane becomes the apex predator, and the infected become his prey. Beyond that, Techland has completely refined their dismemberment system, doubling the number of gore points to allow for much more precise removal of limbs and destruction of skulls. But the most interesting insider detail comes from the development of the blood splatter textures. The team purchased buckets of fake blood and filmed actors falling on the floor to capture realistic smears and stains. This level of dedication makes it clear that Techland is fully committed to delivering a horror experience that will genuinely unnerve you. The Beast is coming out on September 19, 2025 for PS5, Xbox Series, and PC, with versions for PS4 and Xbox One to follow. And so, the long-awaited horror game from Bloober Team, the creators of the great Silent Hill 2 remake, has finally been released, and as it turns out, Bloober Team knows what they're doing. And this is Cronos: The New Dawn. It's a kind of mix of Dead Space and Silent Hill, but with its own unique twist, and the early reviews have been very positive. The main news and a point of controversy is that the game has no difficulty settings. This is a bold and uncompromising decision that has caused a stir in the gaming community. The developers explain that their concept of survival and fear only works with a certain level of challenge. It's a sort of homage to old-school horror games, where you couldn't just choose an easy mode and breeze through the story without feeling tension. As a result, players must rely on stealth, carefully manage resources, and fully use the environment to survive. In a way, it's a test of endurance. That's good that at least there are autosaves before battles with the big bosses. The game has a deep and engaging story that keeps you moving forward, and once you figure out how to interact with the world, it becomes much more interesting. Overall, it's a solid survival horror game with a post-apocalyptic atmosphere in 1980s communist Poland. This is a pretty safe bet to buy, and it's a game to be proud of. God Save Birmingham. I have a very mixed feeling about this game. On one hand, I like the medieval Birmingham setting and the idea of a Korean developer taking on this project. It's bold. I also respect they aren't afraid to leak very early gameplay, but it's so raw and full of glitches that I'm not even sure it should be shown to people. A main point of criticism is the zombie behavior. It feels like they're just hugging you instead of trying to tear you apart. In some moments, they look way too safe, and it's cringe-inducing. They should be way more aggressive and terrifying. Animations also leave a lot to be desired. Items clip through textures, and zombies sometimes clip through each other and even the main character. However, behind the visible problems lies an ambitious concept. The game already has advanced physics, a barricade building system, and detailed survival management. And if all of this, along with the other issues, is brought to perfection, it could be interesting. It's clear that the game is still in a very early stage of development, and a full release in 2026 is highly unlikely, so I don't want to hate on it. But for now, it's something to keep an eye on and maybe try in early access. It's a kind of industry lottery. The project could either become great or fail completely. If you compare the third installment of Killing Floor to the second, it can be called a failure, as evidenced by only 52% positive reviews on Steam compared to 91% for the second game. So let's figure out why, and whether it's worth playing Killing Floor 3 despite the disappointing scores. The reason for this negativity is that Tripwire Interactive made several controversial decisions that didn't sit well with the old fanbase. Main complaints were about the gun feel and animations. Gamers say that the weapons feel like toys and lack recoil. Animations were done on a computer instead of using motion capture like in the second game, which resulted in a loss of smoothness and liveliness. The game's look also came under fire, a design that's too futuristic and gray, which according to many stripped the game of its soul. Players note numerous bugs, little content, and an unreleased state. Despite all this, Killing Floor 3 also has its strengths, which were noted by both critics and some players. The game now has a deep weapon customization system, as well as updated skill trees. Developers added a new critical zones mechanic on enemy bodies, allowing for a more strategic approach to combat by targeting weak spots. And even despite the fact that the developers are making some fixes and patches, as practice has shown, Killing Floor 3 is now very controversial. Into the Dead: Our Darkest Days is a major step for a franchise primarily known for the mobile market. The developer Pickpock, who spent 10 years creating a popular runner game, has released a full-fledged, side-scrolling survival horror for PC. Released in early access in April 2025, the game immediately became one of the top releases of the month on Steam. Instead of just running forward, players must manage a group of survivors in 1980s Texas. Main goal is to find a safe refuge, gather resources, craft, and fight off zombie hordes that attack your barricades every night. One of the key differences is the permadeath mechanic. If your character dies, they are gone forever, making every decision critically important. Developers have also added psychological elements like despair and nightmares that you need to manage. Studio plans to develop the game in early access for 12 to 18 months, releasing major updates every 4 to 6 weeks. This demonstrates a serious commitment to the project and a willingness to work with the community to create a complete and deep experience, which is reassuring for those who might be hesitant to buy due to the franchise's mobile past. The Midnight Walkers is a hardcore FPS with survival and looting elements. The game supports online PvP and co-op, and you can play solo or in groups of up to 3 people. The events take place in the massive Liberty Grand Center Mega Complex, where players must fight not only zombies, but also other survivors. And just like in the previous game, a key feature is the permadeath mechanic. If you are killed, you lose all the gear you've collected during your run. This makes every encounter incredibly tense, as not only your character's life but all your progress is at stake. And you should also keep in mind that the biggest threat, of course, comes not from zombies, but from other players. In addition, the game features a poisonous gas system that gradually fills random floors, forcing you to constantly move and change tactics. To fight enemies, you can choose one of the classes. For example, a hammer-wielding tank named Brick, or the sniper Lockdown who uses a bow. Furthermore, the game will use a kernel-level anti-cheat, which is an important detail for any PvP project and signals a serious approach to fighting cheaters. Projekt Z Beyond Order is a co-op FPS that takes us to the height of World War II. The plot revolves around a secret German island, where the Nazis are running a clandestine program called Projekt Z, attempting to turn zombies into a biological weapon to turn the tide of the war in their favor. The game supports co-op for up to 4 players, both online and via local network. Players can choose from one of 4 unique characters, each with their own abilities and a dedicated skill tree. The project looks like a successful fusion of classic zombie themes and modern mechanics. On one hand, it's the familiar Nazi zombies concept that many will appreciate. On the other hand, the game offers a deep progression system that makes it stand out from other titles. The team has its own secret hideout that can be customized and upgraded. This is where you'll craft and modify weapons and accept side missions. After completing missions, players can return to the island in a free roam mode to re-explore locations, collect loot, and find new blueprints. The game has been officially postponed to 2026 and will be available to play on PS5, Xbox Series, and PC. Showa American Story is, to put it mildly, an unusual RPG set in a satirical post-apocalyptic America of the 1980s. The developer is the Chinese studio NAKWON Entertainment, which is known for its horror games. At first glance, the game seems to be just a collection of nonsensical chaos, but in reality, there's a deep satire hidden beneath it. The game setting, the US culturally colonized by Japan, is a direct reference to the real Japan panic of the 80s, when America feared that Japan would economically surpass them. The game's trailers aren't just weird, they are filled with references and parodies of American and Japanese pop culture, including Gundam, iconic 80 seconds movies, and anime. In addition to zombies, the game features a cast of grotesque characters, like a president who watches anime at exactly 6:30, or the governor of Texas, who claims to be both a cowboy and a samurai. This isn't just random madness, it's a carefully crafted parody of B-movies that adds layers and depth to the game, something that a mature audience can appreciate. You'll be able to dive into Showa American Story in late 2025 on PS5 and PC. DREADZONE, a first-person open-world shooter, was released in early access on July 17, 2025, but received mixed reviews on Steam, with only 50% of them being positive. This difficult launch was largely due to player complaints about poor optimization and generic gameplay, that some critics have likened to a badly built game on Unreal Engine 5. However, the project has a few unique elements. The most interesting detail is that your character is one of the infected, forcing a moral dilemma. You can either work with scientists to find a cure, or embrace the infection and join the mutant hordes. The gameplay loop revolves around scavenging, crafting, building shelter, and fighting zombies, mutants, animals, and other players. Another unusual detail is that the game's keyword list on IGDB notes it uses AI-generated artwork and concepts, which is quite rare for this type of project. The developers have stated that early access will last 3 to 6 months, with plans to add new zombie types and systems like farming and animal taming. They also promise that the game's price will not change after the full release. Milo is an online co-op horde shooter that, according to the developer, is heavily inspired by the early Call of Duty Zombies mode, like the one from World at War. The game is expected to be released in early access in second quarter 2026. What truly distinguishes this project is that it was created by just one person over 3 years. This is a true indie title made with passion, and the fact that a single developer was able to create such a complex game built on Unreal Engine 5 commands immense respect. Instead of inventing new mechanics, Milo brings players back to a proven and beloved gameplay loop, surviving against waves of enemies. But it still has its own unique features. The game offers various modes, including PvP and co-op for up to 4 players, as well as local split-screen support, which is a rare feature in modern games. Additionally, a free demo is available on Steam. NAKWON Last Paradise, developed by the well-known publisher NAKWON, is a hardcore survival shooter that challenges the very nature of humanity. In this game, the main threat isn't the zombies, it's other players. Set in a post-apocalyptic Seoul, survivors sneak in to find valuable items that can be sold on the black market. However, the permadeath mechanic means you lose all your loot if you get killed, making every encounter with another player a matter of life and death. The devs have paid great attention to sound. A single gunshot will attract all the nearby zombies. This makes stealth a key element of survival. In addition to the tense gameplay, the game also has a unique citizen-grade social system that determines your privileges and access to items. To maintain your status, you need to constantly earn money, which adds an element of economic simulation to the game. NAKWON is actively communicating with its community on Discord, discussing things like weapon modification and anti-cheat systems. This game is a brutal social experiment where your life depends on whether you can trust other people in a world without laws. I'd appreciate a like if you enjoyed the video, it helps the channel grow. Also, let me know in the comments which games from this list you'll be playing. And if you want to stay up to date on all the latest releases, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching and see you next time.